All right, y'all. Welcome to the Whole Busters podcast. I am your host, Darie Michelle, and today we have a wonderful guest named Mike Brown who is here to chop it up with us, share some of his life experience with us today, and we are going to find out what it's like from a male's perspective, overcoming some of life's difficulties, and we're going to rebuild ourselves because we know how life be life, and y'all, okay? So I'm happy to have him joining us tonight, and I'm looking forward to conversing with him and gaining some new insights that I believe will help those of us out there who need a little encouragement, a little motivation as we continue working on healing and kind of picking up the pieces of our lives so that we can ultimately become better versions of ourselves. All right. So, Mike Brown, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. So, I want to start off this episode with a quick little welcome and icebreaker with you. Let me ask this. Who's the most famous person that you've ever met? And if you've got a good story, we would like to hear about that.
Oh, I would say the most, and I only say these two because I'm really big fans of both of them, but I met Pharrell and also met Kanye West.
Nice.
Kanye West, it was very random. The person I was dating at the time was working in the same building as TMZ, and Kanye was doing an interview, and he called me. He was like, "Hey, Kanye's here doing an interview." So I went to go watch it, like just to go see him doing this, having this conversation. And as he was leaving the interview, we made eye contact, and I just gave him a head nod, and he gave me one back. And then he stopped, and he said, "Hey, bro, can I get a hug?"
Really?
Yeah, he asked me for a hug, and
wow.
I was confused. Everybody that was around looked pretty confused, but I gave Kanye West a hug, and yeah, I asked him if he was okay because I was like, this is random.
Right, especially Kanye, right?
Yeah.
I would think he'd be so standoffish, like, don't touch me, bro.
and then after I gave him a hug, I fanned out. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such a big fan.
Listen, I would have been tripping from the start. Like, oh my, I'm so starstruck. I'm so silly. Oh my God. I can't handle meeting nobody. It's just not, I got to build that up. But that is so funny.
I just was confused. I just didn't. I mean, I wanted to be starstruck, but I was like, me? Okay.
I know that's right. When did you meet Pharrell?
So I met Pharrell twice. I met him once at his he had put out his first book, and I was living in LA.
Okay.
And he did like a book signing if you showed up, and I got in line early, got the book signed, and then when he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, he tweeted, this is back when I used to be on Twitter. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be at Sephora after the Walk of Fame, come meet me." So I was like, wow. Shit, I'll go. I was the last person in line. They cut the line off at me. And
wow.
I was the last person that got to meet him. And like, he was taking pictures with everybody, and he was kind of giving the same poses. And like, he gave me this pose where he like pointed at me. I was like, oh wow, am I like the chosen one?
Yes, you are. No, that's right. I love that. That is so dope. See, I have a story. I won't get too into details, but I was a huge Nappy Roots fan. Okay. And so I literally snuck backstage when I was about 16. They were opening up for Alicia Keys at a casino up in Connecticut. And when I tell you it changed my life, we'll have to talk about that off camera sometime. But I just, oh my God, I love it. I love those stories. But thank you for sharing that with us. So
of course.
I guess to kick off this interview, tell us about kind of your geographic journey, like where you're from, what places you lived, where you grew up, that good stuff.
Wow, that's a great question. I really appreciate that because I'm from Houston.
Okay.
I went to college in New Orleans. I see you have your HBCU shirt on. I went to Xavier University.
I love it.
After Xavier, I moved to LA. I lived in LA for 13 years. And after and actually I left LA last year to be a nomad for a few months. So I went from LA to Vancouver and stopped a bunch of places in between, came back down to LA, went back to Texas, went to New York for 2 months. And then went back to I was in between Brooklyn and Jersey City, so I was kind of in between New Jersey and New York.
Okay.
But after that, I went back to Houston for 4 months to spend time with family and just kind of like figure out like what's next. And the journey brought me to Newark. So I'm in New Jersey now, and I've been here since April.
Nice, nice. Do you think you're going to be there for a while, or you got any other plans kind of coming up, or where you want to go and explore next?
I really would love to live outside of the country.
Mm,
Um,
especially now, right? Just
yeah. No, that's true. I've wanted to for a while, but I'm getting more and more inspired. And honestly, I feel like the East Coast is probably like it almost feels like I've been going through different levels to get to out of the country, and like New York is so overly stimulating that it feels like,
yeah.
oh, this is probably the last level of the United States for me to get out of the country for a little while. So thinking
Wow.
Mexico, thinking Paris, those are the two that speak loudest to me. But
Nice. Have you
I'm
been
really
there
I'm really
before?
open. I have, and
Mm.
they both feel like home every time I go.
I love that. See, I only recently got my passport about a year ago when I left my husband and was like, you know what? I have got to start seeing some places in this world. I haven't got no stamps yet, but damn it, I can't wait. Okay. I've got all kinds of places on my list and places to travel and go and explore. My parents are world travelers, I say. So I'm like,
Okay.
one day I'm going to be like y'all. So you are the host of the Art of Letting Go podcast, and let us know more about your show, how you got it started, and kind of your journey as a content creator and podcast host.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I got into podcasting because therapy was too expensive for me. Uh, I started in 2017. I feel like I go through these cycles of like having a job, quitting a job, having a job, quitting a job. But I just quit my job at Starbucks, and my insurance had went up.
Mm,
So I ended up I had just gotten therapy around that time also, and it was giving me such a rush of just like having that space because I wasn't really a vulnerable person. I mean, a lot of people would share things with me, but I wasn't very open about what I was going through. So, to
yeah,
have that space, it was just like really like I just felt free. And when it was taken away from me, it was like I still need this freedom. So
yeah.
I was listening to a few podcasts at the time. I was listening to Oprah. I was listening to Joe Budden,
Okay,
and
yep.
there was a guy on the radio in Los Angeles. His name is Anthony Valadez, and he started a podcast about podcasting just to show how easy it was to do.
Mm,
And me and my friends tried it out one day, and yeah, that was how the Art of Letting Go started. I just kind of people always ask me like, how did I come up with the name? Am I
yeah.
Buddhist? And it really just came to me. I had never heard of the Art of Letting Go or anything. It just was like I was a musician, was making music, and it just felt like just what I was doing, just releasing the energy.
Got you. Well, I love hearing that you were a musician. What do you play, or do you sing, or
I'm a percussionist, so
love it?
drums, xylophone, all that stuff.
Okay,
I feel like over the past 10 years, I've probably done everything in a computer. So
okay,
a lot of beat making.
yeah,
I do rap. I do write. I do a
nice.
little bit of everything.
I love that. See, I well in my younger years, I played a bunch of instruments, the clarinet, I played the violin at one time, the cello, but I love the piano. Love the piano. So I have a electric Kawai piano here that I don't get
Okay.
on as often as I want to, but I miss it. Like when I can find some time, it's like, oh, like, you kind of it's like riding a bike. You kind of remember some of your songs that you always played but I'm like, I wish I could teach my kids. So I went and invested in like this whole the like master the piano kit with like the 20 DVDs and the music books and the instrumental CDs. And my kids after the first lesson, like, Mom, this is not for us. This is boring. And I'm thinking, you're killing me. Oh my God. I mean, once Alicia Keys hit the scene, I was obsessed. I was in lessons and like, Mom and Dad, give me a piano, give me an instructor. I need to know this. And I learned piano through her sheet music books. And
Wow.
so I love that. I love music, but it's something about listening to people play drums. I just love a good drummer. So that is super exciting. My son kind of wants to get into that. And I'm like, I mean, might need to tap into that a little bit for him. And I'm sure that will be real fun. Let off some of that damn energy, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, the drums are fun. And it's so funny you mentioned like Alicia Keys getting you into the piano because for me, like getting into music production, Pharrell was that person. I remember the first time I heard a Neptune's beat, I was like,
What
what
is
is
this?
this?
Yeah.
And I just was attracted to electronic sounds like from
Hmm.
that point on. And I'll never forget my dad used to take me to the music store all the time to play with the electronic drums, and
Okay.
I remember it was one Christmas and I asked for a drum machine and he got me a drum set.
Okay.
And I was like, and looking back, I'm like, man, as a kid, I was like so I wanted this so bad that I didn't really appreciate having that drum set. But I
Okay.
do, like, in my adult life, I really do appreciate it, but I really wanted that drum machine. And I felt so like, man, it was almost like asking for a pair of Jordans and getting a totally different pair of shoes. But
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate him just even putting forth that effort in my
Yeah.
adult life.
I can definitely understand. That's too funny. I love the name of your podcast, The Art of Letting Go. I think at this phase in life, we are all kind of going through these life experiences where we're learning, like, you know what, we hold on to friendships, relationships, certain things for way too long. These far expired, and we're still just trying and struggling in all kinds of ways to hold on to things that just kind of no longer serve us. Tell us about the experience that you had that kind of required you to do the most healing, kind of spend the most effort, the most time, if it was a relationship that helped you in that phase of healing and kind of elevating your life to that next level.
Yeah. I would say my journey with my sexuality probably required the most healing of anything I've ever experienced. Just growing up, I grew up in Texas, and being masculine and all that stuff, it really was hard to accept what I was feeling internally.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like a constant battle of just me trying to show up in the world in a way to protect myself, as
Yeah.
opposed to being who I fully was, but also not even understanding for myself who I was, because I never had a model of just what it was to be a black queer man in the world. Really, a lot of my journey was like just learning on my own. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think right before I came out, like before and I would say when I accepted for myself, I went through like a deep depression.
Really?
Yeah, just because prior to moving to Los Angeles, I thought I was just going through a phase, like it was something I would outgrow. I thought I could
Okay.
pray it away. I thought it was just
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. And then I got to Los Angeles and I started meeting like men who were like me. When they told me they identified as gay, it kind of hit me like, well, I guess I might be gay too. And I just went through a deep depression, just thinking that everybody would abandon me in my life. And
Mm.
um yeah, it got to the point where I just couldn't hold it for myself anymore, and I had to share it with other people, and it was just like it was so freeing. Like I just started feeling lighter every time I would share with somebody that, you know, I cared about, and they would reciprocate that care back to me.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends, like I said, he was the one that really guided me to therapy. He was just like, I appreciate you sharing this with me, but I also think you should talk to somebody with an unbiased opinion that can support you in like really just understanding yourself. And that's probably like one of the most powerful tools I've ever experienced in my life.
Wow. Well, shout out to your friend for that. I say we don't, I think sometimes we underestimate the value of a good friend and how important it is to have that person who just is that listening ear and to encourage us to, take it further. Don't just share it with me, but go and get some help, taking care of yourself and your mental health and your, emotional health and all that good stuff. So how old were you when you realized you had these feelings and that you just felt differently?
Honestly, probably as early as third grade. Like
Really?
I knew as a kid that I was attracted to, at that time, boys.
Hmm.
And but again, it was one of those things where it's like, this is not what you're supposed to do. This is not what you're supposed to feel. So, there was definitely like that constant fighting of it, and even like outwardly lashing out against it. Like I can say that I was really homophobic.
Mm.
When I was younger, because I guess I didn't want to be identified.
I can understand that. And that makes sense. I have several relatives and friends who are in the LGBTQ community, and I just love them. And hearing their stories, it's almost like, wow, I hate some of them had to go so many years into their adulthood where it's like they couldn't accept it first, or they had a hard time coming out with it. Parts of our family is like, no way you want to dress like a girl. No way you want to go and have the sex change and things like. I have a couple cousins who are transgendered, and I have some friends who are as well. And I said, that's got to be so difficult, especially in the society we're in right now, where, well, we're going to say maybe going back some years. But I feel like it's a little different now. It's a little bit more, accepted now. Y'all have, more resources. It's talked about. We see it more. The representation is there a little bit more in so many different aspects. But I know that's got to be a heck of a challenge. When you were working with a therapist, like, did you have to go and work with a therapist who is also gay, or what was your experience like with therapy and trying to find someone who really kind of matched you? I think in my experience with therapy, I almost consider it like dating. Like, you have to go through a few before you find the right one, right? And so I ended up sticking with my therapist now is a Black man, because I said, listen, I need you, sir, to help me understand what's going on, Black men out here. Just to get that perspective, I needed somebody who's kind of the opposite. So what did you find in your experience as, you were able to connect with different therapists and go through that process?
My experience was almost the exact same as yours. Like, I didn't know anything going into therapy about it. So,
Okay.
they first paired me with a young white woman. And I felt like she didn't understand what I was going through or what I was experiencing, and she made me uncomfortable. And I remember, like I said, my friend that introduced me to therapy, I told him about it, and he was like, why don't you say it to her? Why don't you tell her like you feel uncomfortable? And
were you able to do that?
I did. And you know
Okay.
what? It opened up so much more dialogue for me, and it made me realize in other spaces in my life where I was uncomfortable having like realer conversations. And so I was like in a counseling program where people were like getting hours and stuff.
Okay.
So when her time was up, they paired me with a white man.
Okay.
And I felt like misunderstood by him, and also felt
Really?
like he wasn't interested in what I was talking about, and I ended up having to tell him that.
Wow.
And every time I've been vulnerable with a therapist, it led to me like having like a, what do they call it, like a breakthrough.
Okay.
But yeah, just like really like unlocking something within myself. And I think like the hardest therapist that I had was another Black man, because I almost felt safer having these conversations with like a white woman with a white man, but then have to talk to another Black man about being gay, being, figuring things out. It was a little scary for me. But by that time I had been through so much therapy where it was like, I can express to you what I'm feeling, and we can explore these feelings and dive deeper into them. So yeah, I did the therapy dating as well. Multiple therapists.
Oh yeah. I think I had to bounce around between like this one probably is my sixth in the last, I would
Okay.
say, 10 years, maybe about 10 years or so. And like I said, I think now it's a good balance. For me, I feel like you said, I started with the white lady, and then it actually went to another white lady, and she was kind of like a hippie. And I was just like, I can't tell this woman about me. In the past, I was a heavy marijuana smoker, right? But I had to take some time this summer, and that's something I'm still healing through. Is I stopped smoking. I might smoke up to a dozen times a day. It was awful. It was just, I just
Yeah.
need to be numb from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. But I remember going to a session with her, and I was high as hell because I forgot I had the session that afternoon, right? So I'm smoking. I'm like, oh, shucks, my alarm, let me go to the session. And I remember sitting there with her, and she's like, can I ask if you're under the influence of anything? And I'm like, no. Eyes cheeky as hell, like, no. And I just was like, listen, if I can't be honest with this person, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of bounce around, and had one who was a Black female, and I felt like she was just trying too much to be my homegirl. Like, I don't want a therapist who's just going to tell me all the things I want to hear. Tell me the things I need to hear, like the things I don't really want to hear, that are going to help me put my eyes up and wake up to just the truth of what I need to fix and what I need to improve in my life. So I think that's kind of it is funny going through these experiences. But I tell people all the time, like, if you're frustrated with your therapist, this is not a marriage. You can go and move on. and
That's a
try someone
fact.
else who might fit, suit you a little bit better. So I love that we are able to even have these conversations and even explore our mental health and explore getting some help, because I know this is something like our parents weren't really, I guess, privy to this type of information. Maybe didn't have the resources, and everything was like, we got to keep it secret. This is private. This is in the
Yeah.
family. We're not going to go sharing our dirty laundry to this stranger here or whatever the case. So I love how over the years mental health has become more of, like, we put more of an emphasis on it, and you just see more people who are out here trying to heal and trying to get better, especially like the younger kids too. Like I love hearing about younger people. Even I've got my kids in therapy and stuff, like, because it's important to start developing these life skills and communication skills, and just, becoming more self-aware, because I think it prevents a lot of the bullshit later in life. Like, the earlier
Yeah.
you kind of know and can identify who you are, what you like, what you don't, how you handle conflicts and those kind of things. God, you can be someone. I'm like, if I had some of this shit when I was like 14, 15, oh, I'd be a beast right now. My God, I'd be,
Same.
oh my
Same.
goodness. So tell me about the makeup of your family.
So I grew up with both my parents. Are still together.
Nice.
Just me and my sister. That's my only sibling that I know
Okay.
of.
Are
No,
you
I'm
the
just
oldest?
kidding. Yeah, I'm the
I know,
oldest.
right? Never know nowadays. Look, my cousin just found out he has a sister who is only a few years younger than him. His daddy passed away some years ago, and through the ancestry, they just linked up, and they look alike. Their kids look like. It's amazing. So you never know. Okay, I got a
Like
whole
my
new
my
cousin.
dad always joked that he might have a child in Germany. So, you
Oh
know,
shucks.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's another Mike Brown walking around somewhere.
Somewhere looking just like you.
Right.
That's something. Now, how was your family when you were able to come out? What was that experience like? Like, how old were you? And tell us about that experience.
I was 26. Yeah, I was
Okay.
26 years old. And they were accepting.
Good.
I came out to my sister first, and
Okay.
like we cried on the phone, and like she created a lot of space for me.
Good.
My mom immediately blamed herself. Was like,
Oh.
how did I not know? What was this? What
Hmm.
was that? And my dad, initially he was in denial for a while. Like, he just didn't believe it, just because he saw me a certain way. Like I said, being masculine and being like, I was a fighter growing up. So my dad just
Really.
saw me as like this, like, tough guy, and just couldn't really understand.
Right. I can understand that. So yeah, I have a relative who recently came out to me, and it was such a precious moment for me. He's a few years younger than me, and it's so funny because our cousins kind of were like, "Well, he's this," and I'm like, "No, he's not." It was At first it was like, "No way, I don't believe that," but I felt so honored that he was like, "I don't know who else to tell, and I just got to get this off my chest," and I was like, "Oh, my baby, like that's my baby right there." But I'm happy to hear that there are more families that, again, are more accepted. Now we're like, listen, we've got some of everything across the spectrum: queer, lesbian, and trans, all in the family. And we're like, if you can't be supported by your family, like, then who else the hell you got? Like, you got to be the ones to hold each other down. We're not all, going to have the same views and the same, kind of perspectives on life. So I love that. And I love that you had your sister there to be able to feel that comfort to come out with her and share that experience. So I think that's super dope. I
I
said, I'm,
appreciate that.
oh
And
yeah.
I think something that I learned in the process was, like, giving my family grace as well,
Mhm.
because something that I didn't take into consideration initially was, like, as I'm learning about myself, like, people that have known me for as long as they've known me, they're just learning about this part of me. So it's like giving people time, giving people grace to catch up to, just who I am today. If I didn't give, like, my parents the space to feel what they needed to feel, I don't think we would have the relationships that we have today. Like,
Right.
my parents have met pretty much every partner I've had.
Okay.
My dad has came with me to, like, prep appointments and stuff like that. So really giving people a space to grow, I feel like is so important as we grow.
Absolutely. I do agree. Do you want kids
I
sometime?
do. I don't know about right now, just because I feel like I'm still navigating chasing my dreams and goals, but
Yeah.
I do at some point in my life. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Now I know there's so many different options for having kids at this point. Would you consider like adoption or having like a surrogate, or have you thought
I,
that far ahead?
I would really be open to both. I
Yeah.
would. And it's funny, I feel like I've came a long way with that, because I used to feel like, oh, I don't want to raise kids because the world is messed up. And
Yeah.
I think when I started teaching, because I used to be a teacher before I started, like, creating full time. But
Okay.
I would see the people that were raising kids and
Mhm.
feel like, if they can do it, I know I can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's all some of these parents out here. It's like, look, we need to take these kids. Like, y'all
Right.
don't even. Lord have mercy. Especially, and especially of my kids. Like, I have a 13-year-old daughter, 8-year-old son, and when
Okay.
I'm in my like daughter's school, I'm like, these kids, mamas look like they 19, and they're like TikToking together and doing all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness. What grade or what age were you teaching?
I did pre-K through
Oh,
third grade.
see, that's a sweet little age. That's like where my
Yeah.
son is, where they just
Yeah.
want to please mom, please dad, and just get their little allowance and go play with their little friends and all that stuff. Then fast forward 5 years, and they're feeling the hell out of themselves, and we're going through like, look, mom, I'm too cool for that, mom, kind of thing. But what do you think your parenting style would be like?
Oh man, I would hope that it is open and honest. Like, I would really hope that I create space for my kids to be able to just express to me whatever. And I think I would want to make sure I'm not talking to them like from a place of fear.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, for your journey, because I do see parents, and I know that it's hard.
Oh
I
my
know
God.
there's literally no right way
No.
to do it.
Yeah, I
Like,
say
no
we
perfect
just
way.
exactly. I tell people we're just trying not to raise little fucked up versions of ourselves
Yeah,
ultimately.
yeah.
And it is such a challenge. Like my daughter literally came home today and she's like, "Mom, you're like famous in my school." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Somehow these kids found out about your podcast and they found your Instagram, and mom, they were like showing me screenshots from your Instagram, like your mom's hot, and you look at you, she's got these pictures of you. Look at your hair." She's like, "Mom, we've got to clean your Insta." She literally made me sit down this evening, go through my Instagram, and remove photos of her. Like when
That
she
is
was like 8, like
hilarious.
happy birthday, my
Yeah.
10-year-old, and she. Like, mom, these are so embarrassing. Look at my hair. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And it's just so funny because there's just, it's going to be so many crazy experiences and things that you don't even think about. Like, I'm like, these kids will never come across my podcast.
Right.
Of course they have. So now they think the name is hilarious. Like, she calls herself the Hoe Busters. But now I'm nervous because I'm like, oh man, like I didn't want these kids to find out about this because I'm sharing details like of my personal life and my intimate life with my
Yeah.
my ex-husband and her dad. And I'm like, oh, I hope they don't use this information against her or share details with her that I haven't even shared with her yet. And I'm like, it's all on the internet and they're gonna find it one day. So
Yeah.
it's like you gotta
Yeah.
kind of be mindful of, okay, let me be careful about the content I'm putting out. And even now I'm finding myself having to have very open conversations with her about things. And like just we recently bought the book It's Perfectly Normal, and talking to kids about sex and their sexuality and puberty and all these things. And the book was so controversial. I'm like, they were trying to pull it off the shelves and take it offline. I'm thinking, why? This book is
Wow.
fantastic. Because it covers, I mean, the full spectrum of your sexual health. And I think it's such an appropriate way to like relay the information with like the cartoon figures and the little charts and all this stuff and the birds and the bees. And it's so scary having these conversations, but I love that. First of all, I'm like, listen, I'm not sugarcoating shit with y'all because my parents were really like, okay, here's the technicalities of it, and here's this, and they was very conservative. And I'm like, listen, baby, this is what the fuck it is. These niggas want to do this. They want to fuck.
Yeah.
They want to blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling her, like, listen, if you don't get your stuff together in school, pull these grades up, your options is going to be crime and stripping. I don't want you doing that. We got to get it together. We got to stay focused, be involved in activities, build up these skills because it's like everything's digital. These kids are struggling to write nowadays. They're struggling to
Yeah.
spell because everything's on the Chromebooks and we've got autocorrect and it fixes your punctuation and your grammar for you when you're typing and work. It's like, oh my goodness. So I'm trying to go back to the basics in some ways of pencil paper, baby. We're going to
Yeah.
have to pull out this dictionary. We're not going to use the app. I want you to actually know how to look up the word responsible, look up the word irrational, look up this word here. Like, look it up, learn and understand. That's another life skill, just knowing how to alphabetize your words and your letters. It's such a journey. I mean, and having the difference of the boy and the girl. I'm the middle child. My older brother is my half brother through my dad. And then me and my younger brother share our mom and our dad. And growing up, it was always such this push and pull with us. It's just like, this isn't fair. How come he gets this? Why does she get this? Did you experience any of that with your sister? Because I don't know. Did you mention if you were older or if you were younger?
Yeah, I'm older.
Okay.
My parents were like super strict on me and like very, very lenient on her.
Really?
Yeah, like I remember even like being like younger and like us having the same bedtime. Mind you, I'm 3 years older than her. I'm like, why we got the same bedtime?
It is right now with my kids. That's so funny. It's just easy to just put them down at one time. What other things did you experience that you felt like were maybe like some differences between the two of you guys?
Grades, like I bring home like 1B. My parents are like, especially my mom just would be on me, but like my sister could come home with a couple of C's and it's like, oh, good job, but at the same time I appreciate it just because I see what it's given me as far as like my drive and just really being able to be solution based, and just figuring things out. Like I think if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be,
Yeah, I said maybe it's something with the oldest, because I thought it was like the pressure on the girls, but maybe it's just the pressure of you being the first one. It's like you're the guinea pig, you're the one who's got to set the standard, you got to set the tone for the younger ones. Because my parents, like my older brother didn't live with us, but he'd come visit and stuff on occasion. And my parents I'm like, oh my God, I had to get the straight A's. I had to have the jobs. I had to do the babysitting and do all the things, And my little brother was like, oh, he doesn't have it like you. He's got ADHD. He can't do what you can do. And, and it was just like, this is so unfair. And so even I remember like going to college, I'm like, I need a car. Like, well, you have to work for your first year, pull straight A's before we help you get a car. My brother, he passes high school with the skin of his teeth. He gets into college on a freaking miracle. And then they're like, what do you want for your first car? And I'm thinking, he doesn't even have to do the work. This is so unfair. And so as a parent, it's like, I'm trying to figure out, how do I try to bring a little bit more balance where it's not like, okay, my daughter, you got to do this, this, and this. And then my son, it's okay, baby. You can just do whatever. And I'm still going to just love you and life's going to be great. Like, no, you have to. It is just, it's like, it is kind of unfair to look at it. And it's so funny you mentioned that bedtime thing, because my daughter just said that to me like a week ago. Why am I going to bed at the same time as him? He's 5 years younger than me. And I'm thinking, I don't got time to figure out your bedtime and his bedtime. I just need y'all both out my face at the same time, go to bed, close my eyes, go to sleep. And so it's so funny. Just, you hear the different experiences, and I feel like I try to take away something from each conversation I'm having. Like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I do need to be a little bit tougher on my son. Maybe I do need to make him or hold him to the same type of standard I hold my daughter to, because, she's going to start saying that same shit to me. This is not fair, Mom. You raised us different. And it's so crazy, because I feel like even with my brother, like we grew up in the same house, but we grew up so different. We are, and of course the dynamics of boy and girl is going to be different, but yeah, it'll never be equal. I tell him all the time, it's never going to be equal, but I do want it to be fair.
Yeah, and I think over time we learn that, because I think everybody has like a different communication style. So it's like, the way that you may communicate to your son, may not translate the same as it would to your daughter, and vice versa. So yeah, I think it's all learning. Like I feel like as humans, we really just have to give each other grace, because we all are just trying to figure it out.
Especially ourselves. I think we're like harder on ourselves than we are on anything, right? And that's something I'm trying to do too. Like, you know what? I'm doing the best. And I try to kind of just set little goals throughout the day, or when I start my day, like, okay, if I can get through half of this, I'm good. Like I always put so much pressure on. Got to complete every task, check everything off the list, check all the boxes. And it's not easy, but I say at least being in this phase of life is like, you know what? I'm actually doing really great. When I look at, just other people around me, it's like, relax, girl. Like, why are you sitting here crying? Like, you couldn't do all 10 things, but you did 7, just fall back a little bit. And so I think that's, something we all probably need to practice a little bit more. So are you currently in a relationship?
I am.
Nice. Okay. Where did you guys meet?
We met in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met in LA on a dating app
Okay.
and disconnected for like we met initially, disconnected for a while, reconnected through creativity.
Yeah.
Reconnected through podcasting, brought him on my podcast. And we stayed friends for a while, and then it just kind of just happened,
Did
like
you guys
life.
move together out to New Jersey?
We did. We
Nice.
did. Yeah,
Okay.
we left LA at the same time, and we are both now in New Jersey.
Okay. Gotcha. I love that. Tell me this, is dating different? I guess being gay or like, how do you think relationships might be a little different for you all versus like a heterosexual type of relationship?
You know what's so funny? So many people try to mimic heterosexual relationships that the
Mhm.
line, I guess, is kind of blurred because a lot of people do try to fall into like that heteronormative of how things are supposed to be. Something that is special about being in a queer relationship is that you can define the rules for yourself because, you know, there aren't really rules to follow,
Right.
so you can define what it is for you. You know, it's so funny. I almost feel like post-pandemic dating is probably harder for people.
Tell me how so, or why do you think that it's different or harder after the pandemic?
I I say because everybody was in isolation.
Hmm.
Because I did have a relationship prior to the one I'm in right now. Yeah, I think people just weren't around people for so long that we just didn't know how to interact with with each other, and
Right.
just people being more attached. It was different,
Okay.
like I definitely found like people just wanting to like jump into something really fast as opposed to like taking time to get to know somebody and stuff like that. So yeah,
Oh,
that felt like the biggest difference for me.
I can understand. How long were you single prior to meeting your partner now?
I want to say like a year, honestly.
Okay. And were you kind of just taking
Yeah.
time to heal in that year and just, or was
Um
it kind of just like, I don't want to be bothered?
no, you know what? I was taking time to heal, but also like just taking time to be by myself. I So talking about people during the pandemic, let me talk about myself and tell myself I got a dog during the pandemic.
Oh,
Um because I want and I no longer have her. I had to give her away because she became too much once I had to go back to work.
I can understand.
But I wanted to just experience love outside of a human being. I just wanted to experience what is it like for me to love something and something love me and to like take care of and nurture something outside of myself. And it
Mm,
was a beautiful experience.
I bet.
And it really made me just understand love in a different way.
Mhm.
Like, you know, the I could be mad, I could be happy, I could be whatever it was, and she would still like just show me that same love, and it's like, wow, this is special.
Yeah, I hear that so much, and I'm like, that's got to be. I mean, that's got to be a special relationship. I personally love dogs, but I'm like, I know that they're like a third child. I actually used to have three pit bulls when I was in college with my
Oh wow.
ex-husband, and so, my first pit bull, she was an all white little puppy and had little brown patches, and we got her during Hurricane Katrina had just kind of happened and popped off,
Okay.
and so her name was Trina. And when I tell you that was my baby, baby, and then she had she had two litters actually, so we kept one puppy from each litter, and just over time, of course, my apartment complex they caught on that I was keeping all these big ass dogs, and they're like, "You're breaking the lease," and I'm like, "Oh no!" And so my ex had took them and was taking care of them, and then I don't know what that man did, but all three of my dogs disappeared. He
Oh
never
my
to this day never
gosh.
told me what happened, and it was just such a like the grief of like, oh my god, like I don't know if they're dead. I don't know if you sold them. I don't know if you just threw them on the side of the road and just said whatever. But I do kind of miss that experience, especially when you see them grow as like little babies. It's like they're just so precious. They're so sweet. I'm not a cat lover now. I'm not really a cat
No,
person. I
me
think cats are a
either.
little bit too creepy and jumping up and looking at you with those eyes. And I'm like, listen, no, we'll do dogs and the puppies, taking little walks and stuff like that. But I love that. My kids are begging for a freaking animal, and I'm like, maybe when we move out, hopefully we'll move out next year, and I'll think about it. I'll think about a little puppy for them just to have the experience and, and give it a try. But that's too funny. So this is going to be a fun question. This is the Hoe Busters podcast. And
Okay.
I think we all have an experience somewhere in life where we had to be a hoe buster, catch somebody busting some hoes, right? So let us know if you've got a good story of catching somebody cheating. You might have been doing it yourself. I got a couple of stories where I was being busted for being a hoe too.
Oh man, that's funny. I will say in my first relationship, I definitely on the end of it was cheating just because I didn't have any other tools. I was in a relationship with somebody that was 15 years older than me.
Wow.
I know. No judgment. This is a safe space. This is a safe space.
That's right.
But yeah, like he wouldn't really communicate with me. So, I was kind of like my outlet. And again, therapy. Therapy was that thing that made me recognize like, oh, this was something that I was using to cope. Like this is not, so yeah, that's my experience.
Okay, I can understand and I can respect that. Say, I think if you haven't been on this end of it to experience being cheated on, I said, then you're doing damn good because you don't want to know what this feels like. It's terrible. It's awful. And so, my whole show kind of came about from my ex-husband, who was a compulsive cheater and compulsive liar. And some of the stories I hear out here, I feel like the common story is finding out that these people out here are married. And so I had, I had a guy who didn't realize he was dating a woman who was married. And I'm thinking,
wow.
What? Now, usually it's the women. Like, I didn't know he had a whole wife at home. But when I heard that story, I was like, wow, it's women out here doing this too. This is crazy. This is where we are. And I feel like it's just become almost like we're trying to like normalize being cheaters. And I said, no, like, this is not something I want to accept. This is not something I want to be a part of. And it's such a deal breaker for me, especially at this point in life. Like, listen, I'm so happily single right now. I don't want to deal with any more going through phones anymore. I got to question this. So we got to track phone locations and it's just so overwhelming. And so I say, I do think about, eventually maybe I'll want to get into a relationship. I'm telling myself I'm taking 2 to 3 years off. Okay.
Okay.
Because I had left, me and my ex-husband, we separated last summer and then our divorce was finalized in February of this year. And so this journey of being single for me has just been absolutely amazing. I can't even express. I don't think I've felt this happy in almost 20 years.
Oh, wow. Hey, that says a lot.
It does. Like we were in a relationship for 19.
Wow.
And I say I was 18 as soon as I went to A&T, I met him and he kind of just swooped me up like, you're lying. And I'm like, dang, I didn't even get a chance to go and explore. So for me being in I didn't get a chance. It was like second month into school. Damn.
Wow.
So, but it was painful because I had to learn that from the start, it was based off of a lot of lies. Everything he said to me was a lie. Look, even discovered he was lying about being an A&T student. And people were like, so it was just like, oh my goodness. So it's so scary at this point, like wanting to go out and be in a relationship and and working through that trust. Like once you like have your trust, so it's been so violated. It's like, oh, trying to rebuild that up when I've got this brick wall. Like, listen, ain't nothing getting past me. I said, some of these men out here don't last 24 hours with me because of the second we're on the phone, you sound like you're lying. Click, block, done, next.
I have a question for you. How are you healing from that? Like while like being in the process of still like, because it almost seems like you still are like getting information from that, like from the residual of that relationship. Like how are you healing from that?
You know what? I had to, after the first few months, because of course it was like the drama of like, we can't believe like all these years, why would y'all separate? What's going on? And we were putting out such an image online, like the happy life, the happy family, the beautiful pictures, the beautiful family and kids, and everybody's commenting. We get hundreds of likes on our photos, and everybody, you guys are life goals. And I'm thinking, you guys don't realize that 10 minutes before we took this picture, I was wiping tears from my eyes. Damn. You know what I mean? Like it was all a facade. It so much of it. And so of course, naturally, when we separated, I'm getting the information from it was so overwhelming. I mean, because everybody was like, congratulations, it's about time you left. Now we could tell you this is what was going on. He was talking about your family. He was talking about this. He was trying to fuck your friends. He was trying, and it was like, oh my goodness. So it was, I at first had to fall back. I don't want to hear no more, y'all. I've heard enough. I've gone through enough, and now I've heard enough. So just kind of having to separate myself from those friends, because we had so many mutual friends. Working with my therapist very hard, but also taking this time, because my therapist is the first person, like, take 2 to 3 years. I know you want to go get a new man. Don't do it. So I was so grateful that he shared that with me. Like, really take time to learn you and learn who you are. Something I can say is, like, my childhood growing up, I come from an unbelievably large family. Like, my parents together have close to 30 siblings. And so I have the most cousins, aunties, uncles. And so my life was always surrounded by people. And I'm a Leo sign. So naturally, I'm like always very sociable. I want to go party. I want to be out. I want to be seen on, And so it was very difficult for me to be alone. And so I think for so many of those years, I held on to the marriage, not wanting to first be a single mother. Just that was like the biggest fear I had. And not wanting to have my kids go through, like, experiencing a broken home with my parents. They're pushing 42 years of marriage. Yeah. And so it was like, you try to fit this fantasy or this image of, nope, we're going to do this. We got to fight. But when you're the only one fighting, it's like, what am I doing here? So I had to kind of come to grips with, you know what? I just need some time alone. I don't want to, like, and I would date casually. Lots of people want to take you to dinner and stuff. Cool. That's pretty much all it'll be, is just, let's go have dinner. I'm learning Charlotte for the first time after 12 years of being here. This is the first year I was able to really, my husband never took me out on dates. We never went out, but we make it look like we do something, you know what I mean? So it was just always like that. And so it has been so nice meeting people and just getting out, trying new things and getting back into things I enjoyed, like art, for example. I'm a painter. And so I went 15 years not painting, didn't touch a paintbrush, nothing. And so I said, you know what? I had got some gift cards and, like, Amazon gift cards for Christmas. This had to been last Christmas. And so when New Year's came, I was like, let me go to just rack up on supplies. So I got a little Sterilite bin, and I got the easels for me and my kids, and just different size canvases and paintbrushes and acrylic paints and all this stuff. And it was like, oh my God, like, I love this, like, just kind of tapping back into that. And my 2 degrees are in graphic design. Okay. And so I went 15 years not touching graphics, never doing a website, not doing any, digital graphics or vector graphics. And I work in IT. And so I don't have to use those skills in IT, but I started thinking, maybe I need to do something with, like, these skills. So that's when I started sharing my story, I think that was really therapeutic for me too, because I was so silent for so many years where I couldn't share my story and tell people what was going on. My parents didn't even know. Wow. And so, like, I shared the story, like, last summer, 4 days before my birthday, which was August 8th, we were hosting a reunion for my dad's side of the family here in Charlotte, because no one never really been here before. And I caught my ex cheating on me with 4 different women 4 days before my birthday. And so at that time, it was like, you know what? I was literally praying to God for a sign. Please give me something. Because I was fantasizing about going into my 37th year single. And I'm like, I just need a break. I just want to start fresh over. I was working out, getting in the gym, and really just kind of feeling myself like, this isn't for me. So 4 days before I got that sign, it was like, wow, this is amazing. And so just kind of having that freedom to go and explore, it was like, I had people who were ready to get married a month later. And I'm like, no, like, I don't want to be in anything committed. I really want to know what it's like for my phone to not ring. I want to know what it's like to not get messages. I want to know what it's like to just sleep peacefully in my bed. And so just really having to come to grips with, oh my God, this quiet, sometimes it's like deafening. It's like, oh my God, what in the world? I need some noise. I need people. But then I have to sit in that and say, no, this is so good for me. It's so good to be able to, like, reset, recalibrate, and just find out, who am I? And just take time. So I got into a lot of journaling. But even with starting the podcast, it initially kind of started as like a vlog. And so my YouTube channel, I have like maybe a couple dozen videos, and I just was first like sharing my story, but then also mixing it in with information and things I learned from counseling. And so I realized everybody just doesn't have the access and the resources to go and get counseling. But yeah, I would take some of the little gems I learned through my counseling experiences and just like make little videos of, like, here's 10 signs of manipulation you don't even realize. Here are 5 signs you're dealing with the narcissist. Here are some red flags to look at. Here are, 5 beautiful things that happen that nobody tells you about once you get divorced, you know? So
Yeah.
even just pushing out those messages was like, oh my God. And the reception was great. And I started modeling part-time. I went into the mall one day and this lady was like, I need a model, girl, let's come. And it was just like, so that opened up a whole new world for me and just started getting exposure in different ways. And on her platform, she's a pretty big influencer here in Charlotte. And so she put me online, like, because I had no intentions of being online. I was kind of the social media stalker, like, oh, I like this, I like that. I would, and the times when we would post, it was like, usually if I'm posting something with my ex-husband, we're a happy couple, oh, we're this. But it was hard for me to do it on my own. So when I saw that reception, it was like, you know what, let me start this podcast. Let me see what can actually happen from here. Had no idea it would go this far, or that I'd, start bringing on guests to talk, or that I'd find the studio here in Charlotte to record when folks are able to come and link with me here locally. But it's such a process. It's such a process. I mean, getting back into the gym. I was a vegetarian for 7 years. And so once I left, I said, fuck this. I'm getting some bacon. I went and got me some Chick-fil-A. I was like, so now, now I'm eating meat. So this is why I can smile again. I couldn't smile for 7 years. So I was fucking hungry eating cauliflower and eggplants. But, just now I'm able to eat again and just eat things I love. And it's such a process. I feel like it's been a long list of things I've had to do and I'm going to have to continue doing. I'm still so easily triggered by certain things. There were so many ex-girlfriends and people, like certain names are triggering where I can feel my heart. Like I hear that name and I'm like, oh my God, and it's so like, it's so sad that you don't realize how that trauma of being cheated on, that trauma of being emotionally abused, like that may carry me the rest of my life. I hope it doesn't. But there's certain things that I'm still trying to work through my triggers where it's like, okay, I literally have to just sit and breathe sometimes. And I have certain playlists that are very calming. I'll put my music on, put my headphones on and just listen to my music and just take some time, especially now that I'm in this phase of trying to do this a little bit more sober than I'm used to. So that's not easy itself. And it's like, and then trying not to go and turn to another vice, right? Where I'm like, okay, let me not start picking up drinking or pick up cigarettes or, you know what I mean?
Something. No, I understand.
But filtering out the negative imagery of things on TV, and I loved murder shows, loved them. Okay, Snap First 48, just give me all of it, okay? But so it's so much that goes into it. But the peace I have now, the energy I have, the energy I'm able to just kind of spread to people, and like I go everywhere, I just want to compliment people. I just want to make people feel good. And I say, and when you don't feel good, that's the furthest thing from your mind. When you're kind of in the middle of a lot of pain and trauma and heartbreak, it's so hard to compliment somebody. It's so hard to be happy for somebody. I'm happy for everybody. I just want to see everybody win, everybody elevate, everybody doing good. And so that's the part I try to share with people. It's not a 1, 2, 3 step. This is a 1 through 100 steps. You know? And it takes constant like motivation. So motivational videos, meditation videos, high frequency videos when I'm going to sleep at night, and affirmations. So it's so many things that go into it, but I love this process of being able to pour into me again, because I know that I'm a better friend now. I'm a better daughter. I'm a better mother to my kids. Hell, I'm a better employee at work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just more focused. I'm more organized, not being high all the time. I'm not messing stuff up at work. And, so it's just been such a beautiful space to be in. And I'm just so freaking proud. And I'm just so happy to connect with other people who, again, are like-minded and just making it and doing awesome things in life. So I just love being in this space. I say healing is beautiful. I think sometimes you feel like it's scary because, again, it requires you to have to really take a step back and like practice a lot of introspection and try to figure out, okay, where do I want to go from here? Like what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? But I think the path and the journey of kind of rediscovering that is just so awesome. I literally can freaking cry thinking about like where I was a year ago to where I am today, and letting people actually see that and see the happiness on me. So I hope that answered the question. So I know I go.
No, I did.
Rabbit holes.
No, it really did, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that's that. I definitely love sharing those experiences. And so I do have a final question, and I guess if you're able to share, what are some tips that you can give to, I guess, some of the viewers or listeners here who might be in similar situations that you experienced that helped you with, just kind of being more comfortable within yourselves, being more accepting, and again, giving yourself a little bit more grace. But let's leave them with a nice little gem.
The gem that I want to leave everybody with is it's a book called The Four Agreements. And the first agreement is don't take things personal. And I struggle with that still to this day. I'm still doing work around it, but it's a gentle reminder to myself when things aren't going your way or when things feel like they're not working out. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal, because a lot of times it has nothing to do with you at all.
I love that. Yeah, that's something that we do have to be reminded of. I think it's very easy to look at something or go through a situation and like want to beat yourself down because maybe the outcome isn't quite what you hoped or expected. So I love that. Mike, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
I'm glad. I hope we have a chance to link up again soon.
Yes.
All right. Well, there it is, y'all. Another wonderful episode. We are wrapping up. And special thanks to my new friend, Mr. Mike Brown, for coming on to the Hope Busters podcast today and for having a wonderful conversation with me. And thanks to all of you out there tuning in and watching us or listening on any of the streaming apps. So please make sure you take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the podcast on any of the major platforms from YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. And please drop us some comments to let us know how you like this episode. And if you have any questions for me or for my special guest, Mr. Mike Brown, I'll make sure to tag your contact information in your podcast as well so that we can check you out and give you some more support as well.
I appreciate that.
And if you ever happen to be in the Charlotte area, please let me know because I'd love to show you out to a very good time.
I would love that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what? I never thought about coming out to Charlotte, but I'm going to put that on my list for next year. I would love to come out to Charlotte.
Please do. It's a lot to see. It's definitely a lot to do. We'll definitely have us a good time out here, right? And maybe we can get in the studio the next time and link in person and do another episode together.
I would love that.
All right, y'all. Well, I hope you enjoy your evening. And until next time, peace.
Peace.